Welcome to the Vacation Rental Show, How We Grow. This is your essential playbook to grow and scale your vacation rental business. With advice and insights from the best in the biz, I'm your host, Lynell Gordon. Welcome to the Vacation Rental Show. I'm Lynell Gordon, your host, and I have a really special guest today. Josh Meisel is with us. Josh has a lot of interesting experience, and he's currently the owner of ITrip in Austin, but he has some really cool background. And Josh, would you tell us a little bit about your background? I was just really surprised.
Yeah, so I have been working in corporate America for about 30 something years. A lot of that time in product management, working on high tech and mobile apps, websites. And I've worked in a variety of industries, most recently fintech. But before that, I did work on the short-term rental space in 2010. So I worked at VRBO slash HomeAway for a few years when they went public. So that was where I got my introduction to the short-term rental space.
And we hope you got some of that, some of the, um, some stock there in some way, shape, or form before they went public. That was a good thing for everybody. That was a good gig if you could get it at the time.
Yes, for
Um,
sure.
you've also worked for Price Waterhouse. I mean, you've worked for Amazon. You've worked for very large corporations consulting. Tell me how you got into property management. I think you have your own units even.
I do. I own multiple properties. Most of them are in San Antonio. A lot of those I manage as long-term rentals, but it gave me a lot of experience like managing properties and guests and maintenance. And so that was really great experience for when I decided to purchase iTrip and have, own my own property management company.
What made you decide to go with a company? What made you decide to go with iTrip?
So I was working with a franchise coach. I was actually kind of trying to decide whether just to go back to corporate America, get another job, or kind of do my own thing. And she was presenting me various franchise opportunities, and iTrip really piqued my interest because the Austin franchise was up for sale. It was an existing franchise, so I liked the idea that there was already revenue coming in. I wouldn't be, part of some of the challenges with the franchise is if you're in the new territory, is you have to go without really any revenue for quite a while you're building the business. And so I like the idea that right out of the gate I would have revenue coming in. I had an experienced team of employees. They all stayed with the company, so that really helped as well. Since some of this was new to me, and I was able to rely on have a great operations manager, great inspector, and it was really helpful that they came along and during that transition made it much easier.
Oh yeah, for sure. Having to come in. Let me ask you this. So how do you differentiate yourself um, in terms of guest experience? What steps do you have in Austin to make sure that your guests have like a memorable stay?
Sure. So we try to make sure that we are very, very responsive. You'll see, like in our comments over and over, like the host is very responsive because I think there's just a lot of hosts out there, especially like some of the I won't get into names of other companies, but some of them are just they're just not there. Like we had our whole team is in Austin. We're locally owned and operated, so
I love
if we
that.
need to, we can get someone out there really quickly. If there's an issue that needs someone out there, we respond within usually minutes to questions or concerns that are being raised. And so I think that's the key thing is like guests being make feel like they're heard and that issues are addressed right away.
Well, you're known for boutique customer service. That's the reason I was asking the question. I was like, tell me, what does that mean when I think about boutique customer service? Is it, oh, well, obviously it's an immediate response almost practically, and I've
Mhm.
seen that. What other types of things do you do to make it a special customer service?
I think it's, having all the folks in Austin, like, so we can provide that local knowledge. And like sometimes the guests will ask for recommendations and suggestions. We actually create guest books with recommendations of things to do in the area, restaurants that they should go to, experiences that are near the properties, details of the properties, detailing out the amenities. Sometimes some of the amenities are, a little bit more complicated. to use. And so we make sure like all that information is available in the guest book, so that they can have that information up front. But then we're also there to answer any kind of questions or provide additional information if needed.
So, with your background at companies like Verbo and Amazon,
Mhm.
how has your experience with tech and product management in that space influenced your approach to vacation rental management?
I'm always looking for ways to use technology to our advantage. Like for example, like we use Wi-Fi code locks on every property, so we can we don't have to go to the property. We can just immediately issue a code that's customized for the guest. That's just for the duration of their stay. And it makes it very easy to for lock management. To get them in and out of the property. um, we're looking, looking at some ways to use AI to answer customer questions and some of the standard responses. So just trying to find ways that we can leverage technology, like all of our email. A lot of this is in our software platform, but like all the guest emails are all automated. So it's not like we're having to send the check-in and check-out information and booking information. That's all automated. That all goes, automatically happens through our software. And so, I'm always looking for these opportunities and working, either with software that we have or working with other companies to provide, more, uh, more you leverage the technology to make things faster and smoother.
Since you have experience as both a property manager and a real estate investor, what advice would you give others who are looking to get into the short term rental space?
I think it's, that you just have to realize that there's a lot that goes into it. I think I underestimated just, how much work is involved. So it's, there's a lot. And, especially when you're starting out, you're really having to do everything. As you grow, you're able to start building a team and having the team do some more of that. But I know, like I obviously I work with I'm close with all the other ITrip franchise owners. We have conferences every year, and like especially like some of the newer ones, it's they're having to do everything. While they're in that growth stage until they can get to a high enough level where they can bring on some more employees. And so just you kind of like have to kind of factor that in if you're trying to start the bit from scratch, that you're going to be doing everything from going out to the properties to managing rates in the software and building the listings. I mean, there's a lot of it. So so that's I just kind of factor that in until you can get to that point where you can start uh slowly outsourcing different tasks, based on really based on what you want to do. And that's actually kind of like one thing that I do really like about owning the business is I know some owners, they, for example, really enjoy going out to the properties and fixing. They're very handy in fixing things. Like, the owner of the Dallas, like he loves to go out. He's out, during the week all the time, going out to the properties. I don't prefer that as much with my background in computers. I like working with data, and I actually enjoy more some of the more technical things like rate management. And I'm in there in RevMax, messing around with the rates and making, trying to optimize that. Whereas, other owners don't enjoy that and they're going to outsource that. So it's kind of picking and choosing it. What are you good at? Where are you going to add the most value? And then looking at ways to then outsource other aspects that maybe you don't enjoy or someone else might be doing better.
That's just good, great. That is great business sense right there. Doing what you do really well and then surrounding yourself with people to do everything else. That is excellent advice. Let me ask you this. So, right now, what is your biggest challenge you're finding here in 2025? Uh, what is the biggest challenge in your vacation rental business right now?
Biggest challenge is to just to get through the slower seasons, and keep properties booked.
Is it
Uh,
seasonal in Austin?
it is seasonal. Yeah, we're in the slow season right now. So basically, November through February is the slow time in Austin. It's it's typically starting in March is when it really picks back up with March's South by Southwest. So March is a big month for Austin, and then it starts getting warmer, and then and people start booking like our lake properties that they get busy, and then it keeps busy through the summer, and then October is the biggest month of the year for Austin because of Austin City Limits and Formula One. So that's a huge month, but then it slows down after October. So it's trying to find ways to keep it busy, and so one of the strategies I've recently used that's helped a lot with that is bringing in more midterm rentals. And I don't know if this applies to all markets, but specifically for urban markets like Austin, there's a pretty good demand for midterm rentals. People wanting to come for 1 to 3 months, and so I've been doing things to get more of those types of bookings, and that really has helped get through some of the slower times.
I hadn't heard it called that before. Midterm rentals, and you're saying those are monthly rentals that are more than 1 month?
Exactly, yeah. Usually on average about 1 to 3 months.
Okay. So, well, that's a great strategy to get through the I'd like to have that strategy employed for my house at the beach too.
Right.
Haven't quite figured out how to do that, especially, in the late fall season. That's something that I struggle with too, that we're working to do some things there. So what other types of things let's talk about revenue management because that's one of your passions, obviously. You're using RevMax. How often do you look at pricing for your properties, and how far out do you do that?
I look at it pretty often, like, a few times a week I'm in there, like, going around adjusting rates. I obviously have the dynamic pricing turned on, which is, that's key. I think that's really important to, leverage the software and, have that do that for you. But one thing that I do that really helps is RedMax lets you sort by occupancy rate. So I go and I'll sort where the lowest occupancy, starting from the lowest occupancy for a specific period of time, and focus on those properties. And if I see a property is like way below occupancy over the average for Austin, then I'll start thinking like, what do I need to do? Is it just dropping rates? Do I need to like make some tweaks to the listing? Is there something going on here? So trying to find ways to optimize that. So the tools, really help focus on those problem areas.
RevMax is a great tool. I love
Yeah.
it. With your experience, with the major companies, the Fortune 500 companies that you've worked with before, what's a piece of advice you would give to aspiring entrepreneurs in the vacation rental space who are looking to achieve long-term success like you have?
Have some good long-term goals, making sure you're have like a ways to, kind of stair step to reach those goals. So I like to have some like achievable things like in the way, to reach those goals. And so that way you can kind of assess like, are you making progress to those goals? And then, kind of track that and then make adjustments as you need to see, what's working, what's not working. I'm still trying to find the optimum way for marketing. I think that's, been one of the hardest things is to, find new properties and so trying to see like which marketing is working, which one's not. And so I've been trying over this last year since, this still is fairly new for me. It's still, I just finished my first year of owning this. I'm trying to find that optimal place where, to find new properties and grow the business. And so, I think it's just you always be open to new ideas and learning and then stick with what's not working and then ditch what's not.
Interested in a unique franchise opportunity? iTrip Vacations provides a unique business opportunity in a thriving industry. iTrip offers an executive level income potential with work life balance in an exclusive territory. As an iTrip franchisee, you'll provide a full array of short term rental property management services for the properties that you manage. iTrip offers extensive support and training requiring no previous experience. Visit us online at itripfranchise.com to learn more.
I love the fact that you've been very successful in this business without, I mean, and now having your own vacation rental company. Um, I love what you said up front, the fact that, gosh, it's a lot of work. I mean, you're someone who comes from corporate America, I do too, who knows what it is to work a lot. We know what it's like to have a desk full of things and you never get through it. And yet you're saying, "Boy, there's a lot of work here." Tell me tell me what really surprised you most, uh, about the types of things that you, maybe hadn't thought about before you bought the business.
I think that the biggest thing was, coming from corporate America is, for the most part, like, when you're away from work, like on weekends and vacations and stuff, you can kind of put it away unless there's like something crazy going on. But for the most part, you're like, okay, okay, I'm on it's vacation or it's weekend, and I'm not going to really think about work so much. But when you own the business, you can't do that. Especially in this business where, there's it's 24/7, there's, guest issues all the time. And when you're only it's a small company and I just have a few employees that I really, and stuff gets escalated to me, so you have to be on call and be available, and so it's hard to sort of turn it off like you can in a corporate job. So that was, I guess, the thing I probably didn't anticipate, probably, since I didn't have the experience in running my own company as much.
Yeah, the operational part I think the operational part surprises people when they first get into it. There's a lot to do operationally, right, at the company, especially when
Oh,
you're
yeah.
small. There's so much to do. So you're relying a lot on your automated software to do to do that, which is great. I mean, what would we do without that? How are you evaluating your marketing efforts? You talked about that a little bit, uh, as far as getting new properties and things. How are you reaching out to get new properties, and how are you evaluating? You said you were doing different approaches. How do you know which one's working? What is working best for you for getting new properties?
But right now, just networking has been the best. Referrals, from my current property owners, and then networking. I do BNI, which has been good. I've gotten property through there.
Tell me what
Uh,
BNI is.
it's the largest business networking group in the country, and it brings together a bunch of small businesses. And so there can in every BNI chapter, you can only have one profession. And what's interesting is, my
Wow.
bachelor so but when they say one profession, one of the arguments I had to make when I joined BNI was that I was a short-term rental property manager, and they already had a long-term property manager, and we both agreed that it's very different business.
Very different.
And it actually turns out to be like some of my best referral is the long-term property manager, because there are properties that, like, I'll get leads on properties and I'll be like, you know what, this just it doesn't make sense as a short-term rental. I'll do an estimate of revenue. I was like, you're better off as a long-term rental, and I'll refer that to her, and then she'll vice versa occasionally get some properties where, this is better as a short-term rental, and she'll refer that to me. And we've actually that's probably been some of my best referral sources, which was a little surprising, is the other property manager in the BNI group.
Oh, wow, yeah, for sure. So let me ask you this. Would you tell me your favorite either guest or owner story?
Sure. So owner, one of my favorite owner is, there's this one owner that I work with, and he's great. What he does is he buys these properties. They're just sort of like very small, kind of suburban houses, and kind of just plain run of the mill houses. And he completely, renovates them. He works with this, designer, and she's great. She brings in, decorates the whole place, but then he'll put in all sorts of high-end amenities. Like one property, he put in a 55-foot lap pool, a hot tub, cold plunge pool, high-end massage chair, a zero gravity chair, arcade games. So, yeah, so it's great. Like, he, realizes, like, to keep it booked all the time, you wanna have these amenities that guests are not gonna be, normally get just in a regular property. And so, he just, makes these properties really stand out, and so it's great working with him because, to me, like, my experience is that that's a little more the exception. Usually, a lot of property managers don't wanna put that kind of money in, so it's great when you have someone like that that's willing to put in money to put and do these things to really make the property stand out.
So what are the top amenities in Austin?
Pool and hot tub are really, really popular, especially, in the warmer months. It's hot in Austin for most of the year.
Yeah.
So a pool is a big draw. I know it's a kind of costly amenity, but definitely, like, especially in the summer, like, properties with pools book, much better than ones without.
Yeah, it's really hot there. Is it snowing there today?
It actually is, yeah. It's very very unusual today.
I
Yeah,
thought it might be. It was snowing earlier here in Dallas too, and I was like, this is just
it's
it is. So pool and hot tub. I think that's really interesting because it's very important, I think in any place where it's hot, but it might be the same if it's in a cold. I'll have to ask somebody who has property management company, like in Telluride. Or I'll go
Mm.
look it up online. I need to figure that out. That's pretty interesting because I wonder as we look as property managers at the amenities that we're looking for when we take a property, which amenities actually pay for themselves afterwards. So does this guy that put the cold plunge and all this, does this property owner make more money?
Yeah, definitely. We're able to charge higher rates than comparable properties in that area, and, the occupancies our rates are really good.
His occupancy
So
is good
it's
too? Well, that's good to
yeah.
know. I mean, I think it's important to know which amenities you tell your homeowners that they need to have in their property, especially if you're trying to get them to upgrade it or something. So I know what that is at the beach. I don't know what that is in Austin. So that's the reason I was asking. And it seems like it's similar, hot tub and pool.
Those are, I mean, it's obviously not something that not a lot all homeowners are able to do. It's a pretty, especially a pool is a pretty pricey
Well,
proposition,
you
so
have to have the
it's
room too. Yeah.
yeah, and if you have the room, so it's not always an option, but it is nice if it's something that you can offer.
How important is pet friendly in Austin?
It's pretty important. I have some owners that just refuse, they won't do it, but I always try to convince owners to allow pets. I know that it's usually you have to convince an owner because some owners just are very, for whatever reason, that, like, if they're not pet people, don't really believe in it. But there's a pretty good percent of folks that have pets, and especially like in these, like, with midterm stays, a lot of folks, are need a, they're bringing their pet, so it's not like just a big, like, sometimes, like, for a weekend, someone could leave their pet at home, but if someone wants to rent something, a property for like a month or two, they're going to bring their pet. So offering that pet is going to definitely help you get those midterm stays.
Yeah.
So it's something that I try to convince owners, like, hey, we're gonna we charge a pet fee and we use that to pay the cleaners extra to clean, do an extra good job cleaning, clean up all that pet hair. So really, you shouldn't see a difference in your property. We don't allow cats, so so there's not going to be like clawing up the furniture. So it's really just, there's some dog hair, and so it's more of a cleanup. But the cleaners are going to do that. So at the end of the day, it shouldn't matter to the property owner, and it will get them more bookings.
Last week I interviewed someone who had a guest who brought their pet turtle who was like
Oh yeah!
300-pound big
Wow!
turtle. I'm like,
Oh my god!
but it was outside on the porch, they said, so I don't know. I can't
That's crazy.
I cannot imagine that. That just doesn't, and maybe it wasn't 300 pounds, maybe it was 80 pounds. I don't know. But that was that was definitely something unusual. Even for a long-term rental, I don't know that people would agree to have a pet turtle. Well, is there any advice that you would give to property managers just starting out like yourself? Like a year is a good time to you've gotten established. Is there anything you would tell people, this is a mistake, I would not do this again, or here's something you definitely need to do?
I think just, just come in with, with the eyes wide open, realizing that it is a lot of work, and that, that that the experience that you provide to guests and to owners is really going to be the crux of it. I mean, keeping guests happy, keeping owners happy, making sure that they're well informed, they know everything that's going on, letting them know what you're doing. I think initially, like I didn't always tell owners like what I was doing, and so if you don't know, then they don't realize all the work you're doing behind the scenes. So now I try to make sure, like, hey, like we just sent out an email to all the owners, like we went and to every property and dripped the faucets for this snow that we just got, right? Because we didn't want the pipes to freeze. And so realize like, hey, we're making sure your property is taken care of. We're going above and beyond. And everybody on my team, including myself, had to go out and since we had to go to every single property and drip water, those are the types of things like to make sure that they see that you're providing that level of service. And so if you're doing that, make sure the owners know.
Well, Josh, I want to tell you, I really appreciate you coming on and sharing. It's a lot of work, and I can tell that you've given it a lot of thought. I love the fact that you're 1 year in, and yet you're really looking at your pricing and making sure that your houses are using dynamic pricing, and yet you're checking it, 2 or 3 times a week. So I think that's great advice for anybody who's new in the business as well. But if people wanted to reach out to you and ask you about anything and ask your advice, would you be willing to take their call or email?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, of course. I'm always open. I'd love to talk to, you know, anybody and share information. And we do free estimates for short-term rental income for anyone that is considering it and just want to know like, hey, would this make sense and can make enough money? So happy to provide any information or even if it's someone else that's doing property management, like, we a lot of our association in the franchises, we share information among each other. So happy to share and have people reach out.
What's the best way for them to reach you?
They could just email me at josh.meisel@itrip.net.
Okay, and that's Meisel, guys. M is in Mary. Uh, itrip.net. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it, Josh, for you coming on and sharing with us. And I'm excited to see what your next year brings. Really, you've got some great ideas there. I'm excited to see how your midterm rentals go. And I wish you a great season this year.
Well, thank you so much. I really enjoyed talking about you.
Bye.
All right, bye.
This episode of How We Grow was brought to you by ITrip Vacations. To find out more about how ITrip Vacations can help to grow your vacation rental business, visit itripfranchise.com. Make sure to search for How We Grow in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts, or anywhere else podcasts are found, and hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. On behalf of the team here at Inhabit, thanks for listening.